to scary stories.
Every night, I share a story that most people wouldn't dare to tell. If you're listening, you're already one of us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, that's okay. But just know, every new subscriber brings me one step closer to building a safe place for the one person I love most, my mother. So if you enjoy these haunted tales, press that button, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be the reason the next story finds a happier ending. My name is Ethan, and I should have never made that damn challenge. It started off like a stupid dare. A joke, really. Me, Brandon, and Kyle, best friends since school, sitting in the back of Brandon's truck at midnight, throwing back cheap energy drinks and debating whether the Black Hollow house was really haunted, or just an old, rotting mansion left to scare off kids. I said, if we spend the whole night there, I'll treat you both to a weekend trip. Anywhere. My expense. They both froze for a second, eyes wide. Then Brandon slapped his knee, laughing. You serious? You're on. You gonna write a contract or something? And I did. I typed up a little waiver on my phone, made them sign it with their thumbs. It said I wasn't responsible if anything happened in that house. They thought it was a joke, but I wasn't laughing. Because deep down, something about that place always made my skin crawl. As a kid, I used to hear the stories about missing kids, blood-written messages on the walls, and the boy who jumped from the top floor with eyes missing. They never found him. Only his scream echoed in the woods. That night, we packed our flashlights, some snacks, and portable chargers. Brandon brought a baseball bat. Kyle, a GoPro. Me? I brought a crucifix that once belonged to my grandmother. Didn't believe in ghosts. But I believed in protection. The road was dirt and twisted like a snake through dying trees. The deeper we went, the darker it got, until even the headlights seemed swallowed up. And then we saw it. Black Hollow house, tall, dead, watching. It sat like a corpse among the woods. Wooden boards curled from rot. Windows shattered like broken eyes. The fence was bent, and the gate. It opened as we approached. Not pushed, not nudged. It swung wide open on its own. I swear on everything I have left. Kyle laughed nervously. That's a welcoming sign, huh? I didn't laugh. I told them, last chance to back out. Brandon rolled his eyes. We're already here. Let's go ghost hunting. We stepped inside, and as the last bit of moonlight disappeared behind a cloud, the door shut behind us with a thunderous slam. The challenge had started, and none of us would ever be the same. The moment the door slammed shut behind us, I felt it, that shift in the air, like we weren't alone anymore. I turned back, grabbing the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Locked tight. I jiggled, pulled, kicked it hard. Nothing. Brandon chuckled. Old houses, man. Probably jammed. No, I said under my breath. It didn't sound jammed. It sounded like it chose to close. They didn't respond to that. Kyle had already started filming, panning the GoPro across the cracked wallpaper and fallen beams. This is perfect, he said. Look at the decay. It's cinematic. I wasn't seeing cinematic. I was seeing warnings. Faded red stains. On the walls. Deep claw marks near the floorboards. Broken toys lying on the staircase like they were dropped in a hurry. And that smell. Faint. Like burning plastic and old meat. It clawed at the back of my throat. We moved forward, past the rotted couch and a broken chandelier that hung like a noose. The house creaked beneath our feet, every step like a groan from something ancient trying to wake. A gust of cold air whooshed down the hallway, even though there were no open windows. Then the wind hit harder, sudden and violent. The whole house groaned, shutters clapping against the outside walls. It was like a storm had exploded out of nowhere. We need to find shelter in here, Kyle said. That wind's not normal. So we did what every horror movie warns you not to do. We split up. Brandon went toward the kitchen. still holding, his bat like it would protect him. Kyle headed upstairs with his GoPro, already talking to the camera like some ghost-hunting YouTuber. Me? I stayed on the ground floor, near the grand hallway, the one with paintings whose eyes seemed too lifelike, too aware. I checked my phone. No signal. 0 bars. I turned on my flashlight and walked through a doorway that led into what used to be a children's playroom. There were tiny chairs, a cracked rocking horse, dolls missing limbs and eyes, crayon drawings on the walls, only they weren't cute. One showed a stick figure hanging from a tree. Another showed a man with black scribbles for a face, arms long and thin, reaching toward a crying child, and written in red above one of them, in a child's handwriting, "Don't play with him. He doesn't like new friends." Suddenly, I heard something. A soft laugh, a child's giggle. I spun around, empty. My flashlight flickered. The temperature dropped like a stone. I could see my breath, and the walls began to breathe, in and out, like lungs. The house felt alive. Then Kyle screamed from upstairs, bolted toward the staircase, yelling his name. "Kyle? What happened?" No answer. Then Brandon's voice echoed from the kitchen. "Guys, I think you need to see this." I hesitated. One friend possibly in danger upstairs, another calling for help from the kitchen. I chose to go to Kyle. Something told me he was in more danger. I climbed the stairs, one creaking step at a time, heart racing. At the top, I found the GoPro on the floor, still recording. But Kyle was nowhere in sight. The hallway ahead stretched long and dark, doors slightly ajar on either side. Then, softly, behind the farthest door, the sound of someone humming, a child's lullaby. I picked up the GoPro and walked toward the door. Every step felt like walking deeper into a mouth, about to be swallowed whole. I should have left. I should have run. But the house had other plans. Held Kyle's GoPro in my trembling hand as I pushed open the door where the humming had come from. It creaked slowly, revealing a long-forgotten nursery. Dust hung thick in the air, lit by the beam of my flashlight. A cradle in the center rocked gently back and forth, even though there was no wind, no movement. "Hello?" I called out, but my voice sounded small, swallowed by the heavy air. Then, laughter. A soft giggle. A child's voice. I stepped inside. The temperature dropped instantly. My breath fogged up. I could feel every inch of the room watching me. That rocking cradle. It suddenly stopped. That was when the chair in the corner moved. Just a nudge. Like someone had stood up. My heart pounded. I backed away slowly. But then, a scream. This one wasn't childlike, it was raw, guttural. Brandon. He was downstairs. "Ethan, get down here, now!" I bolted, stumbling down the hallway, GoPro swinging wildly in my grip. The shadows stretched along the walls like they were chasing me. When I reached the kitchen, I saw Brandon, pale, shaking, bat on the floor. "Where's Kyle?" he gasped. "I don't know," I said, panicked. "He was upstairs, then he disappeared. Just gone." Brandon pointed to the kitchen wall. I turned. A bloody handprint was smeared across the wall, small, like a child's. But what made my stomach churn was what was written underneath it in some dark, wet substance. "You split up. That was your first mistake." We didn't even speak, just ran. Straight into the foyer, trying to find a back exit or window to escape. But the windows were bricked up, every door locked. It was like the house had rearranged itself. The layout wasn't even the same anymore. We tried retracing our steps, but every hallway twisted into places we hadn't seen before. And then, the whispering started. Soft, insistent, from inside the walls. I pressed my ear to the plaster and froze. It was Kyle. He was whispering my name over and over. "Ethan! Ethan! Don't leave me here!" Brandon began pounding on the walls. "Where is he? Where the hell is he?" Then something behind him moved. A shadow, quick and fluid, ducked into a room across the hall. "Did you see that?" I said. Brandon nodded, pale as bone. It looked like a kid. We entered the room together, slowly. It was some kind of parlor, lit only by the moonlight leaking through a shattered window. Toys were scattered across the floor. A jack-in-the-box, wooden blocks, old-fashioned dolls. That's when the jack-in-the-box started turning on its own. Click, click, click. No one touched it. Click, click, ding. It popped, but instead of a clown or a toy, something else shot up. Something wrong. A face, half rotten, eyes stitched shut. Its mouth opened, and a deep scream burst out that shattered the lamp behind us. We ran, and that's when we heard Kyle. Again, but this time it wasn't a whisper. It was a scream. "Help me. He's got me! He's in my head!" I followed the sound back upstairs while Brandon stayed near the exit trying to break open a boarded window. I reached the upper hallway again, now darker than before. Even my flashlight began to flicker. "Kyle!" I shouted. "Where are you?" No response. I opened the nearest door. Inside, I saw him, but not how I expected. He was standing in the middle of the room, completely still, facing the wall. His camera lay smashed beside him. I stepped closer. "Kyle?" He didn't move. "Kyle, are you okay?" He slowly turned his head toward me, his eyes completely black. "I told you not to come back here," he whispered in a voice that wasn't his. Then he screamed, a bone-shattering, demonic screech, and I ran. I didn't stop. All the way down the stairs where I found Brandon, frozen in place, pointing toward the front door. It was open now. Just open. The front door was wide open. Cold air blew in. For a moment, Brandon and I just stood there, stunned. It was like the house wanted us to leave now. But Kyle, he was still inside. "I'm not leaving without him," I whispered. Brandon didn't answer. He looked broken, like his soul had already cracked. His eyes darted around, wild and full of fear. "You saw his face, Ethan. That wasn't Kyle anymore." "He's still in there," I snapped. "Whatever that thing is, it's got him. But he's alive." I turned away from the door and started back into the house. Every step I took felt like walking deeper into a throat about to swallow me whole. I went back to the upper floor. My flashlight flickered as I stepped past the twisted hallway where I'd last seen Kyle. The air smelled like rot and smoke. Then I heard them again. Children, laughing, whispering, crying. The sound led me to a closed wooden door near the far end. I gripped the handle and pushed. The room beyond looked like a decayed playroom. Toys were everywhere, but broken, torn, stained with something I didn't want to name. And sitting in the middle, rocking back and forth, was a child-sized figure. It wasn't Kyle. It looked like a doll, but real, with human skin. Long black, hair hanging down, and when it turned its face toward me, it had hollow sockets for eyes. "Nope," I muttered and backed away. But the door slammed behind me. Suddenly, all the toys in the room began to move, spinning, clapping, some of them twitching. The jack-in-the-box from earlier began winding itself again. Then I heard Kyle. "Ethan." He was crying. I turned and saw him standing in the corner, trembling. "Help me, please." I rushed over, grabbed his arm. It felt ice cold. We're getting out. Come on. But then he whispered something that froze my blood. He's inside me, Ethan. He's watching you. Right now. The lights burst. All of them. The shadows on the wall stretched out like claws. And behind Kyle, a shape rose up. Tall, gaunt, with long limbs and no face, just black where features should be. I yanked Kyle and ran. We crashed through the door, down the stairs, but as we hit the bottom, Kyle jerked away from me violently. I said, "Leave me," he screamed, his voice layered, like two voices at once. His eyes rolled into the back of his head. He collapsed, convulsing on the floor. Brandon came rushing from the hallway. "What's happening to him?" "He's possessed," I gasped. "Something's using him, like a puppet." Brandon backed away. "We have to get out, now." We dragged Kyle toward the open door, just a few feet. Then the lights died again, and a woman's voice, soft, sing-song but wrong, echoed from the walls. "You took what wasn't yours. Now give one back." We turned. At the top of the stairs, the entity stood. Her body thin, like stretched leather, arms longer than her legs, eyes glowing faint red. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide. We ran. We burst outside into the freezing night, dragging Kyle across the wet lawn. But he stopped breathing. I dropped to my knees. "Kyle, come on, stay with me." Brandon began CPR. "Come on, man, come on." After 2 minutes, nothing. Then, his eyes shot open. He looked right at me. "It's not over, Ethan," he whispered, in a voice that wasn't his. Then his body went limp again. We called an ambulance. They found nothing wrong. No drugs, no injuries, just extreme shock. Brandon, and I sat in the hospital waiting room all night. And now I'm back home, staring at the GoPro footage. Kyle's eyes. That thing behind him. There's something still watching me. I can feel it. It followed us, and it's still not done. Kyle hadn't spoken a word since we left the hospital. Not one. He just stared, eyes blank, body stiff. Brandon and I took turns watching him in shifts at my apartment. I'd brought him here because, well, because I couldn't leave him in that house. That house. It still clung to me. The sound of the children. The shadow of that woman. Every night since, I heard scratching at my window. And I lived on the 4th floor. It was 2 nights after we brought Kyle back that everything fell apart. Brandon was out getting food. Kyle was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV. I sat across from him, trying to eat, pretending like everything was fine. That's when I saw it. Blood. A small, slow trickle of it, leaking from Kyle's left eye. "Kyle," I whispered. He didn't move. "Kyle, you're bleeding." His body twitched. I dropped my fork. The blood ran faster now, thick and dark, down both eyes. His mouth opened slowly. "I told you," he said, in a voice that cracked like broken glass. "You brought something back." Suddenly the lights exploded. The TV flashed on, though it wasn't plugged in. On screen, the hallway, the one in the house. But no one held the camera. It moved on its own. I stood up, heart racing. Kyle began to scream, a raw animal sound. He thrashed on the couch like something was trying to tear its way out of him. I ran forward, then stopped. His eyes, gone. Both sockets were now black, deep, hollow pits, and from them smoke drifted out. And in that smoke, something was forming. A face, her face, the one from the house. Her mouth moved, whispering in a language I couldn't understand, and every word made the walls groan. stumbled back, grabbed my phone, and ran into the bathroom, slamming the door behind me. That's when Brandon came in. I heard the front door. Ethan? No, don't. But it was too late. A scream. I burst out to find Brandon on his knees, staring at Kyle, or whatever Kyle had become. Blood ran from Brandon's ears now. He clutched his head, whispering. I saw it. I saw it. Inside my head. Kyle stood now. His mouth stitched shut with black threads. He pointed at Brandon, and then at me. And then he fell, just collapsed, as if something yanked his strings out all at once. We took him back to the hospital. Doctors said he'd suffered some kind of intense psychological break, as if his brain had seen too much and forced a shutdown. They didn't have words for it. Neither did I. I tried to sleep that night. I couldn't. I kept seeing Kyle's eyes bleeding. I kept hearing the words, the whispers. Around 3 a.m., I turned on the footage from my hallway cam. There was something on it. A figure, tall, thin, in a white dress, walking into my apartment. Through the walls. She looked at the camera once, then vanished. I can't keep running from this. Something came back with us. Something ancient. Something angry. It's using Kyle. It's speaking through Brandon. And I fear. It's already in me too. I can't explain the pain in my leg anymore. After the accident. Or whatever that was. The doctors told me the bones weren't just broken. They were shattered like porcelain. Crushed clean by something with force far beyond human. But that's not the part that keeps me awake. It's her. That thing. That woman. That demon. She visits me in dreams now. Except I'm not even sure I'm asleep anymore. It started the night I came home from the hospital. I was on crutches. Alone. Kyle was gone. Checked into some psychiatric ward. Completely silent. Brandon hadn't spoken a word since the episode. I was alone with the memories and the dreams. That night, I heard it again. Children laughing, just like in the house. Only this time, it was inside my apartment. I dragged myself out of bed. Every step felt like fire was chewing through my ankle. The laughter came from the living room. Then, it turned into screaming. I limped forward, heart slamming in my chest. The lights flickered, then went out. The TV turned on by itself. That hallway again, the same view. Only this time, I was in the footage. I was holding the camera. I was walking toward the door that had slammed shut on me in the house. I watched as the screen showed me opening that door again, and inside, Brandon. But not as I remembered him. His head was twisted, the wrong way. His eyes rolled back, blood dripping from his mouth as he sat in the dark, whispering, "She sees you. Ethan, she sees you." I dropped the remote and turned. She was behind me. Not like before. Not in glimpses. She stood there, full and tall, her hair soaking wet, black and clinging to her face like seaweed. Her mouth hung open unnaturally, wide, no lips, just torn flesh and teeth like glass. She didn't move. She just stared, and I realized she had no eyes, just hollow sockets, black and endless. Yet I felt them piercing straight into me. I tried to move. I couldn't. I screamed. No sound came out. She reached forward, slowly, and placed her hand on my chest. And in that instant, I was back in the house. The rotting walls, the smell of wet earth, the whispers of children. I was back. Only this time I was alone. No Kyle, no Brandon, only me and her. She stood across the hallway, the same one from the video, holding something in her hands. It was a mask. Porcelain. Cracked. She raised it to her face, and I understood. This was never about the house. It was about us. About me. Something from our past. Something we unleashed. And now, it had taken its form, and it wasn't going to let me go. I fell to my knees. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I felt her breath on my neck. "You will be," she said. I woke up in the hospital again, screaming. Doctors sedated me, asked me who I was talking to, but I wasn't talking to them. I was trying to silence her. She never left me. Kyle's gone. His room is empty. Brandon, found hanging in his bathroom. Eyes removed. Me? I'm still here. Barely. They say it was trauma, that we were all delusional. But at night, when the room gets cold, I hear her humming. And when I close my eyes, I see her face, mouth wide, sockets bleeding, watching, waiting. My name is Emily, and I've spent the past few months living with my Aunt Lydia, in a small town tucked away from the rest of the world. It's peaceful here, or at least it's supposed to be. But sometimes, I catch myself staring at the corners of rooms, waiting for something to move. Anything. And that's how I know the terror is still inside me. The dreams, they never stopped. It's like a constant hum in the back of my mind, reminding me that I'm not free. The thing I escaped, the thing that hunted me, is still out there. And maybe worse, it's still hunting me. This morning was the same. The nightmare had me pinned down, my body frozen, my eyes wide open, but seeing nothing but that damned woman in white. Her face, pale as death, her mouth twisted in agony. I remember every detail. The long black hair that seemed to flow like liquid shadows, and those eyes, hollow and dark, staring right through me, as if they could see the very core of my soul. "Emily," she whispered, a voice that both soothed and chilled me to the bone. I shook myself awake, gasping for breath, drenched in sweat. But it didn't stop. That whisper echoed in the corners of the room, soft at first, then louder, like it was coming from the walls themselves. "Emily!" I jumped up, my legs wobbly as I stumbled toward the door. I couldn't stay here, couldn't let this thing find me again. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her again. That haunting, unforgiving face. I reached for the bathroom mirror, not sure what I was looking for. Maybe just some proof that I wasn't losing my mind. But instead, my reflection looked back at me, pale and shaken, like a ghost in my own body. The whisper grew louder, now more urgent. "Emily!" I slammed the door, leaning against it to catch my breath. I wanted to scream, but what good would it do? Aunt Lydia was downstairs, and she had no idea what I was going through. No idea. That every night, I could feel the chill of the widow creeping closer, inch by inch, reaching for me. The same spirit I escaped when I was a child. The one who haunted my nightmares. The one who was supposed to be gone. But she wasn't gone. Not really. When I moved in with Aunt Lydia, I thought I could escape it. I thought the distance, the change in scenery, would help me forget. But no matter how far I ran, it always followed. I finally got the courage to go downstairs, hoping that maybe I could eat something and stop shaking. Maybe Aunt Lydia would say something to distract me. She was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee, eyes sharp and cold. I've never understood her. She raised me after my parents died, but it was like she didn't care about anything except keeping me under control. "You look terrible, Emily," she said, her tone flat. Barely. An ounce of concern in her voice. "Yeah, I didn't sleep well," I muttered, sitting across from her. Aunt Lydia didn't say anything for a moment. her gaze intense, as if she were trying to read me. I didn't want her to know. She already thought I was losing my mind. But there was something else, something she wasn't telling me. She sighed after a moment. "You need to get out of this house more, Emily. You can't stay cooped up in here forever." "But what if I'm not safe?" I wanted to scream it. What if the ghost is still after me? Instead, I just nodded and forced a smile. That's when I noticed something strange. There was a letter on the counter, one I hadn't seen before. The paper was old, yellowed, with handwriting I didn't recognize. I picked it up and turned it over, feeling my heartbeat spike when I saw the name on the front. Catherine. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Catherine. The name that haunted me for as long as I could remember. The name that was tied to the woman, who I believed was my mother. But Aunt Lydia had always told me she was gone, that Catherine had abandoned me before I was born. Why was this letter here? I opened it slowly, the edges of the paper crinkling as I read the first few lines. It was a letter to Aunt Lydia, and it was about me. "I know you've been keeping secrets from her, Lydia. She needs to know the truth before it's too late. The spirit will come for her. It's her bloodline, and she will never be free." I stopped reading. The words burned into my mind. The spirit. The bloodline. I felt a chill run down my spine. This letter was about the widow. My real mother. Catherine was somehow connected to it. The truth. I didn't know what it was, but I had to find out. I had to know why I was being hunted. I looked up at Aunt Lydia, her face frozen, her eyes narrowing at me. "You've been keeping things from me, haven't you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Aunt Lydia's expression didn't change, but I could see the faintest tremor in her hands. "Forget that letter, Emily," she said sharply. "It's nothing. Just drop it." But I couldn't. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The whispers were growing louder again, and this time, they weren't just in my mind. They were coming from the walls. The air inside the house was thick with tension. I couldn't escape the feeling that something was wrong, that everything around me was shifting and the walls were closing in. Aunt Lydia's cryptic words hung in the air, like a warning I couldn't ignore. But the truth was becoming more elusive with every passing moment. The letter, the mention of my bloodline, the widow. It was all connected. But how? After breakfast, I couldn't sit still. My mind was racing, and I was far too aware of the silence in the house. Aunt Lydia seemed distracted, as though she were waiting for something, but she wouldn't tell me what. I could feel the weight of her secrets pressing down on me. I decided I couldn't just sit here and let this consume me. I had to find answers. "Where's the letter?" I asked Aunt Lydia, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. She didn't look up from her coffee. "What letter?" "The one I found on the counter this morning," I pushed, my frustration bubbling up. "The one from Catherine." At the mention of the name, Aunt Lydia froze. Her hand, holding the cup, trembled slightly before she placed it down with deliberate care. She finally met my gaze, her eyes filled with something dark, something I couldn't read. "That letter," she said, her voice calm but laced with an edge. "You shouldn't have read it." "Why?" I demanded. "What's in it? What does it have to do with me? Why did you keep it from me, Aunt Lydia? Why did you lie to me about my mother?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. "I'm not the one you should be mad at, Emily," she said quietly, her voice low. "You don't know what you're asking for. You have no idea what you're dealing with." "You're right," I snapped, the anger and fear swelling inside me. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." I stormed out of the kitchen, not caring if she followed or not. I had to know the truth. I had to understand why my life was tainted by nightmares, by the figure of that woman in white. I grabbed my coat and headed out the door. The town wasn't big, and there weren't many places to go. But there was one place that stood out to me. The old church on the outskirts of town. I had no idea why it felt important, but I couldn't shake the pull I felt toward it. As I walked through the misty streets, the whispers began again. Soft at first, like a breeze brushing past me, but then louder, more distinct. I stopped in my tracks, looking around in confusion. The air grew colder, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I could feel it, just beyond my vision, like something was watching me. Emily! The voice was unmistakable. That chilling whisper, so close I could almost feel it on my skin. I spun around, heart hammering in my chest, but no one was there. I turned and walked faster, needing to get to the church. The whispers followed, growing more insistent, and the air thickened with an unnatural heaviness. My breath came in short gasps as I reached the church, the heavy wooden doors standing imposingly in front of me. I pushed them open, the creak of the hinges echoing in the empty space. Inside, the air was cool and the faint scent of old incense lingered. The pews were empty, and the stained glass windows cast a faint light onto the floor. It felt wrong. I walked toward the altar, my footsteps muffled on the worn stone floor. There, behind the altar, was a small door leading into the church's crypts. The door was old, the wood warped and cracked, but it was just the kind of place I'd expect to find answers. The whispers grew louder the closer I got to the door. My hand shook as I reached for the handle, and when I opened it, the air seemed to change. A coldness unlike anything I had ever felt swept over me. I stepped inside, the door creaking shut behind me with an ominous finality. The crypt was dark, the only light coming from the faint glow of the stained glass filtering through the church above. The walls were lined with ancient stone, and as I walked deeper, I could feel the weight of history pressing down on me. Suddenly I froze. I wasn't alone. There, in the shadows, was a figure. It was a woman, draped in a white gown, her face hidden by her long hair. My breath caught in my throat as I realized who it was. The widow. She was standing there, motionless, like she was waiting for me to approach. I took a hesitant step forward, my mind screaming at me to run, to turn around and leave. But I couldn't. Something was pulling me toward her, something deep inside me that I couldn't fight. She spoke, her voice soft, like a wind through the trees. "You are not ready for this, Emily." "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. The figure took a step closer, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. She raised her head slowly, revealing her face, pale, lifeless, her eyes dark and hollow. She looked like a corpse, like a ghost. But there was something more, something sinister. "I am your mother," she said, her voice a whisper that seemed to echo in my mind. "I have always been with you." The air was thick with the scent of decay. I could hear my heart hammering in my chest as I stood there, frozen in the dim light of the crypt, staring at the woman before me. The figure in white, her face pale and lifeless, her eyes darkened by years of sorrow. She was my mother. Her words echoed in my mind, swirling like a storm I couldn't escape. "I am your mother," she whispered, the soft rasp of her voice sending chills down my spine. "I have always been with you." I wanted to scream, to run, to deny it all, but I couldn't. Something in me, something primal, told me I had to stay. I had to understand. "What do you want from me?" I managed to choke out, my throat tight, my pulse erratic. The widow's lips curled into a ghost of a smile. It was chilling, unnatural, and it sent another wave of terror crashing over me. I have waited so long, Emily. So long for you to remember. My hands trembled as I reached for the pendant around my neck. The one that had once belonged to my mother. The one that Aunt Lydia had given me when I was younger but never told me the story behind. The widow's eyes flickered toward it. The pendant. You do not understand its power, do you? My fingers clutched the pendant tighter, but I still didn't understand. Why was I here? Why was she here? Why did you leave me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper as, though afraid that asking the question would make everything unravel. The widow's expression softened for a brief moment. Then, without warning, she stepped closer. So close that I could feel the cold emanating from her body. The chill was overwhelming, crawling under my skin like 1,000 insects, suffocating me. You didn't leave me, Emily, she said softly. You never left me. You were always meant to come back to me, to find me here. I shook my head violently, my mind reeling. No, that's not possible. You were born into this family for a reason, the widow continued, her voice deepening with an eerie sense of authority. You, my child, are the key to freeing me from this curse. Curse? My breath hitched, my chest tightening. I could barely breathe, barely think. The crypt around me seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, like the walls themselves were closing in. I wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. The widow's voice swirled in my mind, her presence pressing against me like a physical weight. I'm not ready, I whispered, unable to hold the words back. I don't know what's happening, what you want from me. This is all too much. Her gaze softened for a fleeting moment, and she stepped back slightly, but the air still felt heavy, oppressive. You will be ready, Emily. You have no choice. Suddenly the ground beneath me trembled. A low rumble filled the crypt, and the floor cracked open in several places. My eyes widened in horror, as the very earth seemed to split apart. The whispers started again, louder now, filling the room with a deafening crescendo. It was as though the voices of the damned were rising from the depths below. The widow smiled darkly. It is time, Emily. Before I could react, she lunged forward, her hands grabbing hold of my shoulders, cold as ice. The world around me seemed to shift, and for a moment, everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was no longer in the crypt. I was standing in a darkened room, its walls lined with ancient symbols and strange markings I couldn't understand. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. And there, in the center of the room, was a large mirror. Its surface was dark, reflecting nothing but the shadows that danced around it. Look into the mirror, Emily. The widow's voice echoed around me, but her form was nowhere to be seen. It will show you the truth. My hand shook as I reached for the mirror. As my fingers brushed the cold surface, the reflection changed. The shadowy figures inside the mirror began to shift, swirling like smoke, before solidifying into an image. I gasped. The image in the mirror was not my own. It was of a woman who looked exactly like me. She was standing in a forest, her face twisted in agony, her body bound by chains, and her eyes wide with fear. The reflection moved, and I saw her scream, but no sound escaped her lips. She was trapped in a world of shadows, just as I was beginning to feel myself. Who is she? I asked, my voice trembling. The widow's voice echoed again, soft but menacing. She was me, Emily. She is the woman who once held this Pendant, the one who made the deal with the darkness. And now, it is your turn. The mirror rippled and the reflection changed again. The woman's chains broke, but as they fell away, she was not freed. Instead, she was pulled into the dark abyss, her scream filling the air around me, and then the mirror shattered. I stumbled back, gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. The crypt was gone. The room was gone. I was standing in a vast, empty space, the ground beneath me a swirling mass of shadows. I don't want this, I said, more to myself than anyone else. I don't want to be a part of this. But the shadows closed in. They were moving, creeping toward me, wrapping around my legs, pulling me down. The more I struggled, the tighter they became. You have no choice, the widow's voice whispered. You belong to the darkness now. And that was when I realized I wasn't just her daughter. I was part of this curse. The curse that had bound my family for generations. I had no way out, no way to escape. My breath was ragged, every inch of my body frozen in terror as the shadows crept up around me, pulling me deeper into their abyss. The air was thick with darkness, the oppressive weight of it crushing down on me like 1,000 invisible hands. The more I struggled, the more the shadows tightened their grip, dragging me closer to the depths. You can't run from it, the widow's voice whispered, echoing all around me. It's in your blood, Emily. You were always meant to be part of this world. Her words felt like a suffocating blanket, smothering any shred of hope I had left. The darkness was closing in on me, and the more I fought it, the more I felt myself slipping. My heart pounded in my chest, my limbs frozen with fear. I could feel the tendrils of the shadows wrapping around my ankles, pulling me down into the abyss. The ground beneath me seemed to vanish, and I was falling through an endless chasm, my body weightless as I descended into the unknown. Suddenly, the fall stopped. My body hit the ground with a sickening thud. My head spun, disoriented. As I struggled to push myself up, the shadows had released me for a moment, but I could still feel them lurking just beyond the edge of my vision, watching me, waiting for me to make my next move. I stood shakily, glancing around. The place I had landed in was a vast, cavernous space. The walls were made of jagged stone, dark and slick with moisture. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, and the faint echo of dripping water reverberated through the cavern. I was trapped in some kind of underground labyrinth, and I had no idea how to escape. Emily, the widow's voice called, from somewhere deep within the cavern. It was distant, but unmistakable, like a haunting melody that pulled at the very core of my being. You must come to me. I shivered. Her voice was like a siren's call, drawing me further into the darkness, and every instinct in my body screamed at me to run in the opposite direction, but I couldn't. Something in her words, something deep within me, told me that I had no choice but to follow. My feet moved on their own, carrying me forward through the labyrinth. The shadows flickered in the corners of my vision, their twisted forms shifting as if they were alive. My breath quickened, my heart racing with each step. I could feel the oppressive weight of the place, the suffocating aura of ancient evil pressing down on me. I stumbled through the cavern, unsure of how long I had been walking. Time seemed to stretch and bend in this place. Every step felt like an eternity. Every breath was a battle. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't turn back. The voice of the widow continued to echo, guiding me through the maze. You are close, Emily. Close to understanding. Close to your true purpose. My thoughts were a jumbled mess. My mind was racing with questions I didn't have the answers to. What did she mean by my true purpose? Why was I here? Why had she chosen me? As I continued down the winding passageways, I started to hear something else. Whispers. Soft, unintelligible whispers, coming from all directions. They felt like they were inside my mind, a constant barrage of voices that clawed at my sanity. I could no longer tell if they were real, or if my mind was simply breaking under the pressure. Emily. The whisper grew louder, sharper. The sound of my name being spoken from every corner of the labyrinth made my skin crawl. We've been waiting for you. I stopped dead in my tracks, my body trembling. The air around me grew colder, and I could see my breath clouding in front of me. I turned in a slow circle, scanning the cavern for any sign of the source of the voices. It was then that I saw it. A figure. A shadow, no more than a silhouette, standing at the far end of the cavern. It was tall, too tall, and its eyes glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. I couldn't make out any features, just the outline of its form, the glowing eyes locked on mine. You have come to claim your place, Emily, the figure said, its voice deep and reverberating through the cavern like a distant thunderstorm. You are the one who will break the chains. I took a step backward, my heart racing in my chest. Who are you? I whispered, my voice trembling. The figure took a step toward me, its form shifting and flickering, like it was made of smoke and shadows. I am the one who waits, the one who has been here for centuries, and you, Emily, are the key. I recoiled, my instincts screaming at me to run, but I couldn't move. The shadows were too thick, too suffocating. I was trapped, alone, in this dark, twisted world, with only this strange figure for company. And then it spoke again. You are the one who will release me, it said, its voice low and filled with a dark promise. You will be the one to finish what was started long ago. The figure raised its arms, and the shadows around me seemed to respond, swirling in a chaotic frenzy. The walls of the cavern shook, and I stumbled, barely able to keep my footing. I could feel something stirring within me. Something ancient, something dark. The blood in my veins seemed to burn with an unnatural heat, and the pendant around my neck pulsed as if it were alive. I gasped, clutching it tightly, but the pain only intensified. No! I screamed, but my voice was drowned out by the rising cacophony of whispers. I won't let this happen! But deep down, I knew I had no choice. The shadows pressed in, and the figure before me stepped closer, its glowing eyes fixated on mine. I was caught in its gaze, unable to look away, my body frozen in place. Welcome to your destiny, Emily, it whispered. It is time to embrace your true power. And just like that, the shadows consumed me. My heart was pounding in my chest as the darkness continued to swallow me whole. The shadows around me felt alive, coiling and shifting like 1,000 hungry serpents. I could feel them pressing in, on me, suffocating me, urging me towards something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. The figure, what could I even call it, had consumed me in its gaze, its presence warping the very air around me. Every breath felt heavier than the last. The weight of it was crushing, and my body trembled with the cold of its touch, even though I couldn't feel it physically. It was all in my mind. Its control. Its influence. Let me go, I whispered, though I knew it was futile. There was no escape. The labyrinth had me in its grip, and I was only one part of this twisted puzzle. The figure stepped closer, its presence overwhelming. Its eyes glowed with that unnerving light, and I could feel them digging into me, probing my soul. You are bound to this place, Emily. You cannot deny what you are. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but my voice failed me. Instead, I just stood there, my body trembling, frozen in terror. The shadows stretched, creeping like fingers along my limbs, threatening to devour me completely. I am not what you think I am, I spat, though my words felt weak, fragile against the monstrous force looming before me. The figure's laughter echoed in the cavern, a hollow, sinister sound that made my blood run cold. You think you have a choice? You were never meant to have one. Your bloodline is the key to this entire nightmare, Emily. Your destiny was written long ago. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the suffocating reality of its words. No, this can't be true, but something deep inside of me, something that I had always tried to deny, whispered a different truth. The whispers from the labyrinth began to grow louder, a cacophony of voices crashing into my mind. They were coming from everywhere, inside, me, around me. Some were old, others new, all entwining in a nightmare symphony that I couldn't escape. They spoke in riddles, in phrases that didn't make sense, and yet I could feel the message, clear as day. You are the one who will break the chains. Suddenly, the shadows flickered, pulling back slightly as if they were waiting for something or someone. I hesitated, but something in my gut told me that if I didn't move now, I'd lose my chance. Without thinking, I turned and ran. My feet moved on their own, the adrenaline pushing me forward as I sprinted through the twisting maze. The labyrinth seemed endless, stretching farther and farther into oblivion, its walls closing in on me like a living organism. The whispers followed, their voices growing louder, more frantic. I didn't dare look back. I couldn't. The fear was overwhelming, paralyzing. But still, something urged me to keep going. I couldn't stop now. I reached a dead end. The walls were solid stone, no way through, no way out. Panic surged inside me as I turned in circles, trying to find another way, but there was nothing. It was like I had run into a wall of nothingness. Then I heard it, a low growl, deep and menacing, from the darkness behind me. Slowly, I turned, my heart in my throat. The figure was there, standing just beyond the edge of the shadows, its glowing eyes staring into mine. Its mouth opened, but no words came out. Only the sound of that unsettling growl, growing louder as it stepped forward. I backed up against the wall, my chest tight with fear. There was nowhere to go, no escape. Please, I begged, my voice trembling. I don't want this. I don't want any of this. The figure didn't respond. It took another step forward, the ground shaking beneath its feet. The shadows stretched toward me like tendrils, wrapping around my body, pulling me toward it. You don't have a choice, Emily, it said. Its voice was a whisper in my ear, cold and final. You were always meant to be part of this. You will open the door. I felt it then. The pull of something ancient, something deep inside me, something I couldn't control. The pendant around my neck began to burn, its heat searing through my skin, and a voice rose up inside me, unbidden and unfamiliar. Open it. It was my voice, but not my words. I could feel the dark power surge through me, pushing me, controlling me. I wasn't in control anymore. Whatever this place was, whatever it wanted from me, was finally taking hold. I couldn't stop it. The figure stepped forward, its hand reaching out to me, and I knew I had no choice but to let it happen. The darkness pressed in on me, thicker now, suffocating, like a living thing that knew exactly where I was. I could barely breathe. The air was so dense. Every breath I took felt like I was inhaling the very essence of fear itself. The world around me was crumbling, the shadows consuming everything in their path. The figure stood before me, its silhouette distorted by the flickering, unnatural light. I could feel its gaze, cold and penetrating, like icy tendrils digging deep into my very soul. Its presence was overwhelming, suffocating, and I knew, without a doubt, that it was the source of everything, the nightmare that had haunted me since my arrival in this cursed place. "You cannot escape," it said, its voice reverberating in my mind. It wasn't just a sound, it was a presence, an oppressive weight pressing down on me, and I couldn't tell if it was real or just in my head. "You are bound to this place, Emily, your bloodline. Your very existence is tied to it. You are the key." The words rattled inside my skull, and I wanted to scream, to fight back, but my limbs felt heavy, as if the very air itself was holding me in place. I was trapped. I could feel the weight of centuries pressing down on me, the weight of every life that had been lost in this accursed place, and it was all leading up to this moment. My bloodline, my destiny, my curse. I tried to move, to break free, but my body wouldn't obey. The figure took another step closer, its glowing eyes never leaving mine. I could feel its cold breath on my skin, though it didn't touch me. I was paralyzed, locked in place by the force of its will. "Why are you doing this?" I finally managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want from me?" The figure's lips curled into a twisted, mocking smile. "What I want is for you to accept your fate. You are the one who will open the door. You are the one who will bring about the change." I felt the pendant around my neck grow hot, almost scalding against my skin. The warmth spread through my body, and suddenly I could feel it. The power. It was coursing through me, flooding my veins, making my head spin. This wasn't me anymore. This wasn't just fear. This was something ancient, something that had been waiting for me all along. The shadows around me thickened, and I could feel the presence of the other spirits, the souls that had been trapped here for what felt like eternity. They were watching me, waiting. I could almost hear their whispers, the soft, mournful cries of those who had fallen prey to the darkness before me. And now, I was about to join them. "You will break the chains, Emily," the figure said, its voice now a low growl. "You will set us free." I felt my body moving before I could stop it, the pendant glowing brighter, pulling me toward the center of the room. There, in the middle of the darkness, was a door. I hadn't noticed it before, but now it was impossible to ignore. It was old, ancient, and the wood seemed to breathe, as if it were alive. A cold wind blew from behind it, sending chills down my spine. I reached out, my hand trembling. The moment my fingers brushed the door, I felt something crack inside me. A pressure that burst like a dam breaking. A flood of memories, images, and voices filled my mind. I saw flashes of faces, people I didn't know, places I had never been, but they were all connected to me somehow. I saw my mother, Carmilla. Her face was filled with sorrow, with pain, and I knew in that moment that she had been the one who had sealed the door long ago. But it wasn't just her face I saw. I saw the figure, its true form, an ancient, writhing entity, its body made of the very shadows that now filled this place. It was a creature of nightmare, a demon that had been bound for centuries, and I realized the truth. This was not a curse I could break. It was my fate. The figure was behind me now, its presence so close that I could feel it on my skin. "Open it," it commanded, its voice shaking the very foundation of the room. "You are the key. Your blood will unlock the door." I didn't want, to do it. I didn't want to be the one to bring this horror into the world, but the power coursing through me, the overwhelming force of it, made it impossible to resist. The pendant burned against my chest, and I could feel it calling to the door. With a final trembling breath, I placed my hand on the doorknob. The door creaked open, and in that instant, all the shadows, all the pain, all the souls that had been trapped here for centuries surged toward me. They rushed past, around, through me, and I screamed in agony as the darkness filled me, consumed me, made me one with it. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the real world. The house was gone. The labyrinth, the shadows, the figure, they were gone. Everything was quiet. But I wasn't alone. Standing before me was Carmilla, my mother. Her face was sad, but there was something else in her eyes. Something that spoke of regret, of things left unsaid. And behind her, the door to the darkness was still open, a portal into the unknown. The truth had been revealed, but it had come at a price. The darkness was still there, lurking, waiting. And I realized with a sinking feeling in my chest that I wasn't done. I would never be done. This was just the beginning. The fog wrapped around the black cab like it had a mind of its own. London nights always held a sense of mystery, but this night felt different. As I stared out at the towering structure of Blackgate vaults, something twisted deep in my gut. I'd been invited to dozens of press nights, but this one was unlike anything I'd ever seen. The email had been oddly vague. Experience fear as never before. Be part of the story. Join us for an exclusive press night at Blackgate Vaults. The doors opened slowly, revealing a smiling man in a vintage butler suit, Marcus Reed, the PR head, whose handshake felt just a little too cold for comfort. The inside was a maze of flickering torches and faux blood-stained brick. I met the others quickly. Toby Walker, the jaded photographer with a nervous laugh and caffeine breath. Chloe Rivers, live-streaming the whole thing for her followers, oblivious to the dark vibe. Dr. Isaac Moore, a so-called paranormal expert, always clutching his strange pendant. Liam Granger, the ex-military security lead, with more confidence than the place warranted. Something about the vaults beneath the attraction seemed wrong. Too cold for such shallow depth. I told myself it was just nerves. Or maybe it was the odd, barely audible whisper I kept hearing in the shadows. We descended a tight, spiraling staircase to what Marcus called the Chamber of the Condemned. As he explained its fictional history, torture devices, mock executions, I watched Isaac's face pale. His eyes kept scanning the walls, lips silently mouthing what looked like a prayer. A photo from Toby's camera came out distorted. No light issue could explain the twisted black smear behind us. He laughed it off, but his hands shook. I asked, "Marcus, has anything ever happened down here?" He smiled too quickly. "Just special effects, Evelyn." But I caught the way his eyes darted to the corner of the room, as if something was watching us from the shadows. As the guests settled in for the evening's scare walkthrough, things got uncomfortable fast. A chill swept through the air like a breath. The lights dimmed and flickered. Someone's headset crackled with what sounded like Latin chanting. I heard it again, whispers, this time right beside my ear. I spun around. Nothing there. Chloe was still live streaming. "My chat's going wild," she giggled. "They think this place is cursed. Isn't that great?" Dr. Nolan pulled me aside. "You feel it, don't you?" The pressure in the air. This place was never meant to be disturbed. And then the floor vibrated beneath our feet. We were taken into a pitch-black corridor lined with mannequins and executioner masks. As the group laughed nervously, a jump-scare actor fell from a hidden panel, meant to startle the group. Everyone screamed, until we realized the man wasn't moving. Liam rushed over. He's not breathing. Blood pooled from his mouth, his face frozen in a scream. The actor was dead. Chloe kept filming. Guys, this is fake, right? Tell me it's fake. Dr. Nolan pressed 2 fingers to the man's throat. No pulse. Panic rippled. Toby shouted, "Is this part of the act?" Marcus's face turned pale. He whispered, "This wasn't planned." The torches on the wall flared, then snuffed out. Darkness swallowed us. We ran to the stairwell, only to find the stone door sealed shut. Not locked, gone, as if the bricks had fused overnight. I screamed into the pitch black, "Hello? Anyone?" Then came the knocking. Slow, deliberate. From inside the wall, knock, knock, knock. Chloe's flashlight flickered and died. Something brushed past my leg. Toby whispered, "Did you hear that breathing?" I did, and it wasn't human. Dr. Nolan began reciting something ancient. Latin, I think. He turned to me, voice trembling. "We've disturbed something. Judge Nathaniel Blackmore. He's real." "What are you talking about?" I asked. Marcus finally admitted it. "My family. We didn't just build this place. My ancestor led Blackmore's execution. They said he cursed us. I thought it was legend. Just a brand gimmick. It wasn't. The stone beneath us cracked. Thin tendrils of smoke curling upward. Whispers filled the room, now louder, clearer. I judge the living. I free the dead. Who dares walk my halls? We tried to stay together. We tried to remain calm. Toby found a mirror in the hall smeared with blood. One word. Sinner. Then Chloe vanished. Her live stream cut off with a scream. When we found her phone later, the last thing it recorded was her own reflection walking away, without her. Dr. Nolan whispered, "We've entered the judge's realm. His judgment begins at sundown, and he never leaves one alive." I didn't believe in curses, but I did now, because as I stared into the darkness, I saw glowing red eyes. Watching. Us waiting. We huddled in the dim emergency lantern Marcus had retrieved from the utility room. I couldn't stop staring at Chloe's phone. Her final live video, now frozen on screen, showed her face twisted in fear, then replaced by her own reflection walking away. No glitch, no CGI. Her smile at the end was wrong. Something else wore. Her skin. Dr. Nolan clutched his pendant, whispering prayers. Her soul's already claimed. "We can't save her." Toby snapped, "We need to break out, not play priest." But there were no exits. Just corridors that now bent in ways they shouldn't. As we moved deeper into the vault, scratching sounds echoed from the walls. Isaac explained, "He's toying with us, testing our guilt. He feeds on shame." Marcus looked like he was about to confess something, but Liam cut him off, taking point with his flashlight. We found Chloe's body behind a curtain, eyes gouged out, mouth stretched open in a silent scream. On the wall behind her, written in blood, "The first to lie, the first to die." Toby threw up. I could barely breathe. Chloe was dead. Really, truly dead. And we were next. Liam insisted on leading us through the tunnels. "You want to wait for the ghost to get bored? Screw that." We passed a mirror again, but now our reflections moved slightly out of sync. My reflection blinked too slowly. Isaac refused to look at his at all. That's when the lights blew again. We were plunged into blackness. Then a scream. Liam was gone. When we found him minutes later, he was crucified upside down on the stone wall, eyes wide, tongue missing. Blood pooled beneath him. Above his corpse, etched into the wall, pride. "The strongest fall first." I collapsed. Isaac muttered, "He's not just a spirit, he's a judge, and he's reading our sins." We barricaded ourselves in the old torture exhibit. Only Marcus, Isaac, Toby, and I remained. 4 people in a place built to mock death now, clinging to life. Toby sobbed quietly in a corner. Marcus pored over the schematics, whispering about an original exit that was never mapped for safety reasons. I finally snapped. "What aren't you telling us, Marcus?" His voice broke. Blackmore. He wasn't fictional. My great-grandfather helped cover up the executions. Hundreds died here, some innocent. The attraction was built over actual mass graves. This place wasn't just haunted, it was a sealed courtroom for the damned. That night, or what felt like night, the walls bled, literally. Thick black ichor seeped between the stones. Screams echoed, not from us, from the past. Toby found a rusted door that wasn't there before. On it was a scale. Balanced in the middle was a severed hand. Isaac said, "He's giving us a choice. One of us has to confess. Confess, or die." Toby, panicked, ran into the hall and the door slammed shut behind him. His screams didn't last long. We opened the door later to find him hung by piano wire, eyes still twitching. A message was burned into the wall. Greed dies choking. I collapsed. Only 3 of us remained. Marcus proposed a deal. We use the hidden passage. We make a run for it. Isaac looked at me. He won't let us go unless we atone. Atone how? I whispered. Confess, he said. We each tell our worst sin, or die. So we sat, one by one. Marcus admitted to hiding a workplace accident that killed a worker during the tomb's construction. Isaac confessed to a seance gone wrong. He lost a girl, a child, and me? I told them what I never told anyone. My sister didn't overdose by accident. I gave her the pills. I told her to just sleep it off. Silence. Then the whispers stopped. The hidden passage was real. Old, wet stone steps leading into the belly of the vaults. We heard no whispers, no screams, only the sound of our own breathing. Until Marcus stepped on a stone tile, and the ceiling slammed down on him like a hammer. Bones shattered. His body pulped. Isaac and I screamed. Blood soaked my shoes. He never confessed the whole truth. He died with secrets. Only 2 of us left. Isaac and I emerged into what looked like an ancient courtroom, deep beneath the original vaults. Candles lit, themselves on crumbling pillars. The judge's bench stood tall, stone and iron, and there he was. Judge Nathaniel Blackmore. His robe moved like smoke. His face, a skull stretched over by fire. His gavel made no sound when it hit stone, but in my head, it boomed like a cannon. Only one will be spared. I turned to Isaac. He looked at me, and he smiled. Forgive me. He stabbed himself in the throat. I confess everything. The judge looked at me. The flames in his eyes dimmed. Then, one survives to remember, and everything went dark. I woke up in the back of an ambulance. Paramedics hovered. Police lights flickered. A crowd stood behind the barricades. Journalists pointed lenses. Flashbulbs popped. I was safe. That's what they told me. But I didn't believe them. They only found me. No trace of Isaac. No Marcus. No Chloe. No Liam. Just blood. Everywhere. They said it was a gas leak. Hallucinations. Delirium. I laughed. Loud. Wrong. The kind of laugh that made the nurse flinch. But I saw them. I saw him. He let me go for a reason. Back home, my apartment felt like someone else's. My mirrors started acting strange again. At first, just little things. My reflection blinking slower than I did. Smiling, a beat too late. Then I saw it wave at me. from the inside. I covered every mirror in black cloth, but at night, I heard whispering from behind the sheets, scratching, like nails on glass. Sometimes, crying. Detective Grace Monroe came to see me. "I need you to go over the story again," she said, voice gentle, but her eyes cold. I told her what happened, the deaths, the spirit, the judge, everything. She didn't believe me, not really, but she nodded and said, "Thank you, Evelyn." I watched her reflection in the coffee pot. It didn't match her movements. I started researching. There had been other incidents at the London tombs. Unexplained disappearances, vanishing actors, sudden madness, records buried by PR teams and donations. Every 10 years, every decade, something opens. Every survivor dies within 6 weeks of escape. If they talk, they die faster. None made it longer than 40 days. I checked the date. It had been 11 days. The smell of rot hit me first. Then came the blood. Not mine. It oozed from my ceiling, dripped from my walls. My phone wouldn't work. I tried to scream into it, only heard Isaac's last breath echo back. I moved out the next day, got a motel outside London. But the darkness followed. In every mirror I passed in the street, I saw the judge, watching me, smiling. I returned to the tombs at night. Everything was boarded up, condemned. But I saw him, an old vagrant outside the gate. He stared at me and whispered, "You let him feed, didn't you?" I froze. He pointed at my chest. "You confessed. He marked you." I asked who he was. "Doesn't matter. You're the last." Then he cut his own throat. His blood spelled one word across the pavement. Remember. Nightmares consumed me. I relived everything. Chloe's death, Liam's hanging, Toby's scream, but in reverse. Backward sounds, echoes before cause, and every time, I saw myself as the killer. In the mirror, I was the one swinging the blade. I was the one laughing. Then one night, I woke to find myself in my old clothes from that night, covered in fresh blood. My hands weren't mine anymore. A note was taped to my fridge, in Isaac's handwriting. "One survives to remember, but one must stay to judge." I dropped to my knees. I understood now. The judge wasn't a spirit trapped in the tombs. He is a role, a cycle, a mantle, and it had been passed to me. I remembered his final look, when Isaac killed himself. That wasn't mercy, it was a choice. I couldn't fight it anymore. My apartment filled with fog, my voice deepened. The mirrors glowed red, and I saw them, new victims, laughing, drinking, celebrating some influencer stunt as they entered the newly reopened London tombs. The fog of illusion will keep them inside, just like it kept us. They think it's all fake, but now I know the truth. The court is eternal, and I am the new judge. Where Evelyn, now cursed as the judge, begins haunting others, desperate to break the cycle, but slowly losing her own identity. They reopened the tombs under a new name, the Executioner's Maze. Same building, same corridors, same smell of damp blood and old regrets. The PR team was all over it. The most terrifying live experience in Europe. They thought they were clever, trendy. They had no idea. I saw them before they arrived. Names burned into my mind. Taylor, the influencer leader. Cassie, her goth friend. Jamie, her skeptical boyfriend. Ty, the prankster. Mira, quiet, observant, and scared. Nate, the one who doesn't make it past the lobby. The moment their feet touched the steps, I felt my pulse align with theirs. They think I'm just a shadow, an actor in robes, a jump scare. But I don't want to kill them. I don't want to. I try to warn Mira through the mirrors. She sees me, flinches, whispers, "That's not part of the show." I mouth, "Leave," but she doesn't. She can't. The curse won't let her. It's begun again. Taylor goes first. She's live streaming everything, laughing, saying it's all fake. Then she sees Liam's body, still hanging, still rotting, just like I saw it. Her phone glitches. Her stream cuts. She hears a whisper. "You judge the weak. Now be judged." She turns to run, but the walls close in. Metal grinds. She's caught in a corridor that gets narrower, smaller, tighter, until her ribs collapse with a sickening crunch. The walls bleed. Her followers think it's the best FX they've ever seen. Mira feels something. She finds Chloe's necklace in the dust. She starts hearing voices, whispers that match the rhythm of her breath. She doesn't run. She searches. She finds an old locker. Inside, my coat, my journal. She reads my first entries. The curse weakens for a second. I reach out. I touch her hand. But it burns us both. Jamie watches Ty vanish around a corner, screaming, laughing, and never come back. He finds Ty's phone on the ground, covered in teeth. No blood, just teeth. Jamie starts clawing at his skin. He screams, "This isn't real." But it is. The judge wraps him in a mirror maze. His own reflection mocks him over and over until he begs to forget. Then the mirror shows him how many people he ruined online. His punishment? He forgets himself forever. Name, face, voice, gone. He wanders the tombs silently, a hollow shell. Cassie wasn't innocent. She helped Taylor cover up a scandal, a suicide they joked about online. Now the dead speak. She finds herself in the Chamber of Tongues, a place where every wall whispers guilt. They speak in the voices of those she mocked. Is it funny now, Cassie? She tries to block her ears. They crawl into her mouth. She chokes on guilt, literally. I try to fight it. I scream inside my own mind, pounding against the bars of my flesh. But I'm part of the tombs now. I see myself in the mirror, and I'm not me anymore. I'm robed. My face is stitched like parchment. But Mira sees me, and Mira says my name. Evelyn. That pulls something loose. For one moment, I'm back. I cry, "Help me." And she says, "Tell me how." The tombs shake. The judge is furious. He can't. Let me go. I'm his vessel, his voice, and I broke the rules. Mira must die, or I must suffer. The air thickens, walls twist, the lights turn crimson. I hear his voice, inside me. She takes your place, or you stay forever. But I choose something else. I drag Mira to the deepest room, and I hide her in the coffin I once used to escape. I take the judge's blade, and I slit my own throat. But instead of dying, I awaken inside the mirror. The tombs have mirrored themselves, a twin reality, mine and his. Mira escapes, but I remain behind, with all the others, watching, waiting, hoping for an end that never comes. It's been 3 days since the tombs. The police found nothing, just a bad prank, they said. Kids ran off, no bodies, no blood. But I know what I saw. Taylor's last stream, gone. Ty's photos, corrupted. Even Jamie's name isn't showing up in my contacts anymore. It's like they've been wiped, but I still remember. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see her. The girl in the torn jacket. The girl who mouthed, "Help me." Mirrors are no longer safe. At night, they breathe. Sometimes I wake up with fogged glass above me, though I live alone. Once, I found bloody fingerprints on the inside of my bathroom mirror, and once, I swear I saw someone else's bedroom in the reflection. Not mine, not even my world. I think I'm being watched. I think she's still here. I can't scream anymore. I can only observe. The mirror world is quiet, but not peaceful. A place of hollow echo and painful memory. I see Mira walking through her apartment, reading my journal again. She found it taped inside the coat she took. She's brave. She's the only one who ever saw me and cared. But the judge knows this. He's begun his approach. It starts with flickering lights. Mira's kettle boils blood. Her radio plays voices that haven't existed in centuries. At night, the walls whisper Latin. The same chants Evelyn heard before the deaths began, and then the coffin arrives, delivered like a prop. No return address. Inside, bones, blackened, ancient. A note in burnt ink. Finish what she started. Mira starts seeing her friends. Dead. Smiling. Telling her, "Join us. Join Evelyn. She can't sleep." She goes to the British Archive, researching the original structure. Finds blueprints of the old plague catacombs under the Thames. She finds Evelyn's name listed on a lost persons roster from 2 years. Ego Bar. She also finds a priest, Father Halloway, who investigated the hauntings in the 1960s. His journals speak of a judge who punishes liars, one who was sealed by a sacrifice willing to burn. That sacrifice failed, and the curse festered. In her hallway mirror, she sees Evelyn clearly for the first time. Burned, stitched, crying. Mira touches the glass, and this time, she bleeds. She hears Evelyn's voice for the first time. "He's coming through me, through you. You're his door," Mira whispers. "How do I stop him?" Evelyn's voice breaks. "You can't. Unless you seal it again, with fire." Mira goes to the police. They think she's mentally ill. She goes to her parents. They tell her to stop talking nonsense. Even her voice recordings vanish when played back. The judge is erasing her. She realizes she must go back, one last time, to the tombs, to end it where it began. Mira breaks in at night. The corridors are rotted, pulsing. The floors are soaked in blood. She carries a flask of holy oil and Evelyn's journal. The deeper she goes, the more she sees the others, frozen in agony, preserved like wax figures, Taylor's crushed bones, Jamie's face erased, Cassie's mouth full of tongues. They turn to her and whisper, "Finish it." Inside the mirror world, Evelyn watches helplessly. The judge looms over her, shadow massive and robed. "You brought her here. Now she will burn in your place." But Evelyn has learned something. She's not his vessel anymore. She was his cage, and now she breaks the rules. She reaches through the mirror, into Mira, and together they prepare for the fire. Mira pours the oil, lights the match. The fire consumes the tombs. Walls scream. The judge bellows. His robes ignite, and for a moment, every soul he consumes screams in release. Evelyn steps from the mirror, burning, smiling, free. Mira watches as the fire takes her too, and she does not scream. Ashes, only ashes. Firefighters found. Nothing. No bodies. Just soot. No record of Mira Rao. No record of Evelyn Carter. But if you stand near the Thames on a foggy night, sometimes you see a reflection of someone who isn't there. Time no longer moves here. There is no night. There is no day. There is only the drip. the endless reflection, the sound of things moving behind the glass. Evelyn walks through halls of endless mirrors. They show all the victims, frozen moments of their fear. Jamie screaming, Taylor crushed, Mira burning. They live in infinite loop. But she no longer cries. She remembers who she is and what she's become. Each mirror is a portal. Each reflection, a door. Some open into dreams, others into screams. Evelyn steps into one and sees herself. Age 9, back when she believed in heroes. She tries to speak to the memory, but her voice echoes like a drowning bell, and then the voice returns. Still here, child? The judge, still watching, still waiting. His form appears, massive, towering, but burned now, damaged. The fire Mira lit wounded him, but not enough. She freed you, he says, but she was never the sentence. You are. He raises a scale. One side holds Evelyn's memories, the other side, the souls she failed to save. The scale tips. You are guilty of mercy. That is your final sin. Evelyn runs through the broken reflections, through forgotten dimensions. One mirror shows a hospital, another, a woman giving birth, another, a mass grave filled with screaming mouths. She looks for Mira, but she finds only a whisper. I gave you my life. Now give them peace. Evelyn steps into the mirror with the grave. In the graveyard of the judge's victims, the souls rise. Each soul speaks. You walked past me. You left me behind. You let him feed on us. Evelyn kneels. I was scared, she whispers. I never meant to. They silence her. Intent doesn't matter here. Only truth. The judge appears once more. One soul may go free. One must stay to carry the curse. And suddenly, Evelyn understands. The sky above tears open. From the void, Mira's face appears. Serene. Come home, she whispers. If you take my place, Evelyn, you live. If you leave me here, I burn forever. It's a trick. The judge offers her escape, but not mercy. Evelyn chooses. She turns to Mira's reflection and steps away. I will stay, she says. Let her go. The void screams and the mirrors shatter. In a flat across London, a girl wakes up. Her name is Mira Rao. She doesn't remember the fire, or the tombs, or the friends she lost. But sometimes, when she looks in the mirror, she sees a girl, burned, but smiling, watching, protecting, in a world without time, in a place without air. Evelyn sits on a throne made of glass shards. Every soul she saved sings inside her, but she is alone. And still, the judge watches. You passed the sentence, girl. But mercy is not justice. One day, someone will open the door again, and you will have to decide. All over, again. The road to Blackwood was long and desolate. Tall, twisted trees lined both sides of the narrow highway, their skeletal branches reaching toward the sky like claws. The air was thick with fog, the kind that seemed to swallow sound and make everything feel off. Claire Thompson gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white. In the back seat, her 10-year-old daughter, Emily, sat silently, staring out the window. The girl hadn't spoken much since they left Seattle. Claire understood. Moving to a new town after losing her husband was hard enough. But Blackwood, it wasn't her first choice. It was too quiet, too isolated. A place where time seemed frozen. But it was cheap, and right now, she needed somewhere to start over. This will be good for us, baby, Claire said, forcing a smile. Emily didn't respond. She just kept staring at the dense, eerie woods. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Mom, I think someone's watching us." Claire's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Emily turned her head slightly, her face pale. "Back there, in the trees, I saw a woman in black." Claire sighed, trying to ignore the unease creeping up her spine. "Sweetheart, there's no one out there. It's just the shadows." But Emily wasn't convinced. She turned back to the window, her small hands gripping her seatbelt tightly. The woman in black was still there, standing among the trees, watching. Their new home sat at the very edge of town, a two-story Victorian house with a history of its own. The real estate agent had assured Claire that the stories were nothing more than urban legends. Strange deaths, unexplained disappearances, whispers of a curse. But Claire didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in starting over. The house was old, the kind with creaky wooden floors and doors that didn't quite close properly. As Claire unlocked the front door, it swung open on its own. "Welcome home," she muttered, brushing off the sudden chill crawling down her spine. Emily stepped inside hesitantly, looking around with wide eyes. "It smells weird," she said. "That's just dust, Em. It'll feel better once we clean up." But the smell wasn't dust. It was something damp, rotten, and then, thump, a noise from upstairs. Emily clutched her mother's arm. "Mom, is someone here?" Claire hesitated. "No, honey. The house is just settling." But deep down, she wasn't so sure. That night, as Claire lay in bed, she struggled to sleep. The house made too many noises. Whispers in the walls, faint, scratching sounds near the window. She told herself it was just the wind. Then she heard Emily's voice. "Mommy!" Claire sat up instantly. The voice sounded wrong. It was too soft, too distant. She turned to Emily's room, the hallway darker than it should have been. Pushing the door open, she saw her daughter standing in the center of the room, her back to the door. "Emily?" Claire whispered. Emily didn't move. Then, ever so slowly, she turned her head. Only her head. Her eyes were completely black. "She's here," Emily said in a voice that wasn't her own. The room went ice cold. Claire gasped, reaching for the light switch. The moment the light flickered on, Emily collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. "Mom!" she whimpered, tears running down her face. She was here. She was whispering to me. Claire scooped her up, her heart pounding. "Who, baby? Who was whispering?" Emily clung to her, shaking. The lady in black. The next day, Claire took Emily into town, hoping to distract her from whatever nightmare she had. Blackwood was an old town, the kind with brick roads, antique shops, and a church that looked like it belonged in a horror movie. They passed by the church, and Emily suddenly froze. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Claire followed her gaze to the church's large wooden doors. They were slightly open. Inside, deep in the darkness, a figure stood. It was a nun. Her habit was black, her face hidden in shadow, but Claire could feel her eyes, cold and unblinking. Then the church bell rang, echoing across town. Emily gasped, clutching Claire's hand. "Mom, we have to go." Claire didn't argue. They hurried away, but as they left, the nun stepped forward, into the light, her face finally visible. Her skin was gray and cracked. Her mouth was sewn shut, and yet Claire swore she heard her whisper, "She belongs to us now." That night, Claire locked every door and window. but something was inside with them. At exactly midnight, Emily's room grew unbearably cold. The air smelled of something damp, like earth, like a grave. And then came the whispering. Claire shot up in bed. The voices were coming from the hallway. She grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside her bedroom. The whispers grew louder. She turned toward Emily's room. The door was wide open. Her breath caught in her throat. Emily was standing at the window facing outside. "Emily?" Claire whispered. Emily didn't respond. She stepped closer, the air freezing around her. Then Emily spoke, but it wasn't her voice. "It's too late, Claire." Claire's blood ran cold. "You should have never come here." And then Emily's body lurched backward, as if something unseen had yanked her away from the window. Claire screamed. But the real horror was just beginning. The horror has only just begun. In this part, the entity haunting Claire and Emily grows stronger, revealing its true nature. The town of Blackwood is hiding secrets, and Claire will be forced to confront them, or risk losing her daughter forever. Claire sat beside Emily, brushing damp hair from her daughter's pale face. Emily had barely spoken since the incident, last night. But there was something else. A mark. On Emily's left wrist, a dark, bruise-like symbol had appeared overnight. Claire traced it gently with her fingers. It looked ancient, burned into the skin. "Emily, does this hurt?" she asked softly. Emily shook her head, but her eyes were filled with fear. "I dream about her," she whispered. Claire swallowed hard. "Who? Sweetheart?" Emily hesitated before answering. "The woman in black." Claire's hands trembled. "What does she say?" Emily's lips quivered. "She tells me I belong to her now." Determined to find answers, Claire visited the town library. The building was old, its walls lined with dusty records and forgotten histories. An elderly librarian, Mrs. Holloway, watched Claire with cautious eyes. "You're looking for something," the woman said. Claire hesitated. "I need to know about this house, about Blackwood," the librarian sighed, standing up slowly. "Follow me." She led Claire to the restricted archives, unlocking a heavy wooden drawer filled with old newspapers. The first headline made Claire's stomach drop. 902, the hollow nun takes another child. Blackwood cursed? Below it, a grainy photograph of a nun in black robes stood outside a church. But something was wrong with the image. Her face was blurred, as if something refused to let her be seen. Mrs. Holloway whispered, "You shouldn't have come here, dear." Claire's hands clenched into fists. "Who is she?" The old woman swallowed, hard. "A sister who was forgotten. She took the children of Blackwood, claimed them for the Hollow. And now, she wants yours." That night, Claire heard scratching sounds again. But this time they were coming from inside the walls. She pressed her ear against the cold wooden panel. Scrape. Scratch. Whisper. Something inside was moving. A soft, breathy voice hissed, "Claire, let me in." Claire staggered back, her pulse pounding. Then, a loud bang from Emily's room. She sprinted inside, finding her daughter sitting upright in bed, her eyes wide open. Emily's mouth opened, but her voice was not her own. "Mommy! She's in the walls. She's coming." The lights flickered violently. The air grew heavy, and then Emily screamed. Claire barely had time to react before the shadows began moving. The next morning, Claire woke up with bruises on her arms. Deep purple fingerprints, like someone had grabbed her. She rushed to Emily, who was still in bed, pale and trembling. Then, the bedroom door slammed shut on its own. Claire screamed. banging against it. "Emily, open the door!" The girl sat frozen as a dark shape formed in the mirror. A whisper slithered through the room. "She will take her soon." Emily's lips moved, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. "It's too late, Mommy." The mirror shattered, and behind the shards, the nun's reflection stood, smiling. Claire refused to run. She wouldn't let this thing take her daughter. She stormed back to the library, demanding answers from Mrs. Holloway. "You don't understand," the old woman said, shaking her head. "The town let this happen. They tried to stop her once, but they failed. The Hollow Nun cannot be destroyed." Claire's fists clenched. "Then how do I stop her?" The librarian hesitated before whispering, "You can't. But there is someone who knows how." Claire leaned in closer. "Who?" Mrs. Holloway's face darkened. "The last child who escaped." Claire followed the librarian's directions to a crumbling, abandoned house on the edge of town. Inside, she found a man in his 50s, sitting in the dark. His name was Daniel Harlow. His eyes were hollow, sunken with years of terror. "You should leave, lady," he muttered. "She doesn't stop. She doesn't forget." Claire placed the photograph of the nun on the table. "You were the only one who survived." Daniel looked at her with something close to pity. "You don't survive." "Her," he whispered. "You just keep running." Claire's heart pounded. "Tell me how to stop her." Daniel exhaled shakily. "You have to find where they buried her. You have to burn what's left." That night, Claire returned to her house, her mind racing. She had to find the nun's grave. But the moment she stepped inside, the temperature plummeted. Emily stood in the hallway, her face twisted with fear. "She knows what you're doing," she whispered. The shadows moved. Claire felt hands wrap around her throat. An invisible force dragged her backward, pulling her into the darkness. She gasped for air, her vision blurring, and then a voice hissed in her ear. "You will never take her from me." Claire's scream was lost to the void. Claire ran into the Blackwood Sheriff's office, her hands trembling. "Sheriff Hawkins, I need to find a grave," she gasped. The older man looked up from his desk. His expression turned grim. "You need to stop, Claire." Claire slammed a file onto his desk. The 1902 article about the Hollow Nun. This thing is after my daughter. Tell me where they buried her." The sheriff's face darkened. "We didn't bury her." Claire's blood ran cold. "What?" Hawkins sighed heavily. "We tried to destroy her. We burned her body, scattered the ashes. But it didn't work. She always comes back." Claire felt the weight of those words sink in. "Then how do I stop her?" The sheriff leaned forward. "You don't. You run!" Claire refused to leave. She went to the abandoned St. Mary's Church, where the Hollow Nun once lived. The air inside was heavy with silence. The altar was covered in burned candle wax, and the pews were cracked and rotting. But as she stepped forward, a faint sobbing echoed through the dark halls. Claire followed the sound to a door nailed shut with wooden planks. Emily's voice came from behind it. "Mommy, help me!" Claire's heart pounded. "Emily!" She reached for the planks, then stopped. Emily was at home. She turned slowly. A shadow loomed behind her. A nun in black robes. Her face was hidden, except for her mouth, stitched shut with black thread. The air crackled with unseen energy. Claire couldn't breathe. Then, the stitches began to unravel, and a voice, hollow, ancient, filled with death, whispered, "You took what was mine. Now I take what is yours." Claire ran. She didn't stop until she reached her house, slamming the door shut behind her. She called for Emily, only to find her standing in the hallway, staring at the wall. Claire's chest tightened. Sweetheart? Emily turned slowly. Her eyes were black. A chilling smile curled on her lips. Mommy? The lights flickered. The walls shook. Emily took a step forward, and the house plunged into darkness. Claire grabbed a flashlight, her breath ragged. Stay away from my daughter. Emily laughed. A sound too deep, too twisted. She isn't yours anymore. The flashlight died. And in the dark, something crawled toward her. Claire woke up in the basement. Her hands were tied with rope. Emily stood in front of her, whispering in a language Claire didn't understand. Behind her, the shadow of the nun loomed, taller, darker, more monstrous than before. A circle was drawn on the floor in black ash. Claire realized what was happening. She's completing the ritual. The hollow nun was using Emily as a vessel, and when the ritual was complete, Emily would be gone forever. Claire struggled against the ropes, tears streaming down her face. Emily, fight it! Please! For a brief moment, Emily's eyes flickered back to normal. Mommy, help me, she whispered. The nun screamed in fury. The walls cracked, the shadows wrapped around Claire's throat. She was going to die. Unless she stopped fighting and let the darkness take her instead. Claire's body went cold. Darkness filled her mind, her soul. She could hear the nun's voice whispering, "Give yourself, and she will be free." Claire's fingers curled into fists. If she let the nun take her, Emily would be safe. Was that a price she was willing to pay? Her heartbeat slowed. The shadows tightened. And then, she made her choice. With her last breath, she whispered, "Take me instead." The darkness rushed into her lungs. And then, silence. Emily woke up, gasping for air. She was free. The house was silent. But Claire was gone. The nun's presence had vanished. Or so she thought. Because as Emily turned toward the mirror, she saw something standing behind her, a figure in black robes. But this time, it wasn't the hollow nun. It was Claire. Her eyes, dark as the abyss, and she whispered with a voice that wasn't hers. Mommy's home. Emily sat alone in the dark. Her mother had saved her, but Claire wasn't Claire anymore. She barely spoke, barely slept, and when Emily woke up at night, she would see her mother standing in the hallway watching her. Not like a mother watches her child, like a predator watches its prey. Strange things started happening. Doors opened by themselves. The TV played static at full volume, and at night, Emily heard her mother whispering, not to her, but to something else, something inside her. At school, Emily tried to act normal, but one day, her teacher asked about her mother. Emily hesitated. She's different now. The teacher gave a warm smile. Moms go through things sometimes. Emily nodded. Then, she saw her mother standing outside the window. The same black eyes, the same twisted smile. But Claire was at work. Then, who was that? Emily blinked. The figure was gone. At home, Claire stood in front of the mirror. She pulled at her face. It didn't feel real anymore. She heard whispers, hundreds of voices. "You are ours now." Her skin turned pale. Her fingers cracked backward. And deep inside, Claire tried to scream. But the hollow nun had full control. An old woman next door, Ms. Holloway, knocked on Emily's door. She spoke in a low voice. "Your mother is gone, child. That thing is not her." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "How do I fix it?" The old woman hesitated. "She's still inside. But the longer you wait, the less of her will be left." Emily wiped her tears. Then tell me how to save her. Ms. Holloway opened a dusty old book. You must force the spirit out before the next full moon. Emily's hands clenched into fists. But how? The old woman pointed at the page. You must return to St. Mary's Church and burn what remains of the hollow nun. Emily's stomach turned. She knew where those ashes were, at her mother's grave. That night, Emily packed a bag. She needed to get to the graveyard. But when she opened the door, her mother was waiting. Dark, shadowed eyes. A grin too wide for her face. Going somewhere, sweetheart? Emily screamed as the lights flickered off. The house shook. The hollow nun wasn't going to let her leave. Emily woke up tied to the bed. Her mother, or whatever she had become, was chanting in Latin. The walls dripped with black sludge. Dark figures crawled from the shadows, and Claire leaned over Emily's face. "You can't save me," she whispered. Then she opened her mouth, and inside, Emily saw the abyss. Emily struggled against the ropes. Ms. Holloway burst through the door, holding a crucifix. "Claire, fight it!" she shouted. Claire twitched. For a brief moment, her real self shone through. "Mom?" Emily whispered. Claire's eyes flickered between black and brown, and suddenly, she turned the knife on herself. If she died, so would the demon. But Emily couldn't let her go. She screamed, "No!" as she grabbed the knife and plunged it into the floor instead. A burst of light exploded through the house, and the hollow nun let out a blood-curdling shriek. The next morning, Claire woke up normal again. Her eyes were brown. Her voice was hers. Emily hugged her, crying. "You came back!" Claire smiled weakly, but in the mirror behind her, the hollow nun was still there. And she was smiling too. Emily thought she had saved her mother. But evil never lets go that easily. The hollow nun is still watching. And now she wants something even worse. A new body. A new sacrifice. A new home. Emily must end this, even if it means burning down the past forever. Days passed. Claire seemed fine. She smiled. She spoke normally. But at night, Emily heard whispers. Not from her mother, from the mirror. "You can't stop me." One night, she saw something move inside the reflection. Not a shadow, a hand reaching for her. Emily smashed the mirror, but the whispers didn't stop. Ms. Holloway called Emily late at night. "You didn't finish it," the old woman whispered. Emily's hands shook. "But she's okay now." "No, child. The demon still clings to her." Emily swallowed hard. "What do I do?" The old woman took a deep breath. "You must return to St. Mary's Church. That's where the curse began. And that's where it must end." Emily entered her mother's room and found her writing in blood. Symbols covered the walls. Latin words, scratched into her own skin. Claire turned. Her eyes were pitch black again. But this time, she wasn't fighting it. She smiled. "I know what she wants now." Emily ran, but Claire didn't chase her. She only whispered, "See you at the church." Emily and Ms. Holloway drove through the storm. St. Mary's Church stood abandoned, broken. Crosses hung upside down. Candles burned inside. But no one had lit them. As they stepped inside, the air turned thick and heavy. And from the altar, a voice called Emily's name. It was Claire, but something else spoke through her. "You came, child, just like we knew you would." Emily froze in terror. Claire stood in front of the altar, wearing an old nun's habit. Her hands dripped black blood. Ms. Holloway held up a cross. "Claire, you must fight. She yelled. Claire laughed, and suddenly, the church doors slammed shut. The walls cracked open, and dozens of shadowy figures crawled out. The spirits of the other nuns, all whispering. "Join us! Join us!" The hollow nun spoke through Claire. "You can have your mother back, Emily," she whispered. "But you must take her place." Emily's chest tightened. Miss Holloway grabbed her arm. "Don't listen to it." But Claire's real voice broke through. "Emily." Tears streamed down her face. "Please, let me go." Emily felt sick. If she refused, the demon would keep torturing Claire forever. But if she agreed, she would become the hollow nun's new vessel. Emily made a choice. She grabbed a bottle of holy oil from Ms. Holloway's bag and threw it across the church. The walls erupted in flames. Claire screamed in agony. The other spirits wailed. The hollow nun's face twisted in pure rage. "No, you cannot destroy me." Emily's hands shook as she held up a lit match. "You should have stayed in hell," she whispered, and dropped it. The fire engulfed the altar. The demon let out one final ear-piercing shriek, and Claire collapsed to the ground. Emily ran to her mother's side. Claire's eyes fluttered open for the first time in years. She was free. She smiled weakly. "You saved me, baby," Emily sobbed. "Don't leave me, Mom." Claire brushed her cheek. "I'll always be with you." And as the flames rose higher, Claire closed her eyes for the last time. Emily ran outside as the church collapsed. The hollow nun's screams echoed in the wind. The fire consumed everything. The spirits were finally free. Ms. Holloway placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. "It's over." Emily nodded. But deep inside, she felt something was still watching her. Months later, Emily visited her mother's grave. She placed a single white flower on the headstone. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I miss you, Mom." A cold wind brushed against her, and a faint whisper echoed through the air. "I miss you too, sweetheart." Emily's blood ran cold. She turned, but no one was there. She took a deep breath. Maybe it was just her imagination, or maybe the hollow nun never really left. The nightmare wasn't over. Emily thought she had won. She thought she had burned the evil away. But some curses never die, and some demons never forget. The hollow nun still lingers, and now she has found a new way back. Emily must face her final horror, or be claimed forever. Months had passed since the church fire. Emily had tried to move on. She took a new job, rented a small apartment. She told herself it was over, but at night, she still heard the whispers. "Emily, I see you." She'd wake up gasping for air, and in the darkness, she'd see shadows moving, watching, waiting. One evening, Emily saw a news report. A young girl had gone missing, last seen near St. Mary's Church. Emily's stomach dropped. That place should have been destroyed. But in the footage, behind the police lines, she saw it. The church was still standing, untouched, like the fire had never happened, and standing in the doorway was a figure in a nun's habit. Emily's blood ran ice cold. She had to see it for herself. She drove back to St. Mary's. The moment she arrived, she felt something was wrong. The church looked new, like time had reversed. The air was thick with dread. The door creaked open on its own, and deep inside, she heard soft crying, a child's voice. "Help me, please." Emily stepped inside. In the candlelit darkness, she saw her, a small girl, barely 10, hiding behind a pew, trembling. Emily kneeled beside her. "What's your name?" The girl sniffled. "Abby." Emily's heart pounded. "Who brought you here?" Abby's lips quivered. "She did." Emily froze. Who? The girl slowly pointed behind her. Emily turned and saw the hollow nun standing in the aisle, grinning. The church doors slammed shut. The candles flickered wildly. Emily grabbed Abby's hand. "We have to go!" But the girl stayed frozen. She whispered, "She won't let me leave." The hollow nun tilted her head. Her voice echoed. "You came back, Emily. Just like I knew you would." Emily's hands shook. "You're supposed to be dead." The nun's smile widened. "Child, I was never gone." The air turned freezing cold. Abby's eyes rolled back. She screamed as black veins crawled up her arms. The hollow nun laughed. "I needed a new body, a new home." Emily pulled Abby close. "Fight it. Don't let her in." The girl gasped for air, but the demon's grip tightened. Emily grabbed a rusted crucifix from the altar. She held it up, her voice shaking. "Get out of her, you monster," the hollow nun hissed. The walls rumbled, and the church began to collapse. Emily dragged Abby toward the exit. The doors wouldn't budge. The hollow nun hovered above them, laughing. "You can't run, Emily. You belong here." Emily clenched her fists. "No, I don't." She pressed the crucifix against Abby's forehead. The girl screamed. The hollow nun's voice howled in fury. Dark smoke poured from Abby's mouth. The girl collapsed, and the hollow nun's form began to crack and wither. Emily grabbed Abby and ran as the church exploded in flames. Emily carried Abby outside. The church burned to the ground, for real this time. The hollow nun's screams faded. The nightmare was finally over. Abby opened her eyes. She was safe. She whispered, "Thank you." Emily smiled softly. "You're going to be okay now." Days later, Emily sat by her mother's grave. She felt at peace. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she slept without nightmares. But as she left the cemetery, a cold gust of wind rushed past her, and a voice whispered in her ear, "I'll be seeing you, Emily." She froze. She turned around, but no one was there. Her heart pounded. Maybe the hollow nun was truly gone, or maybe she was just waiting for the right moment to return.